The Denobulan Armada lay shattered and burning, torn asunder by a physics-defying superweapon no one believed the primitive humans were capable of creating. Mere hours ago, the technologically superior aliens had been poised to erase humanity from the universe, their conquest all but assured. Now only the grisly wreckage of their once mighty fleet remained, smashed to ruin by Earth's devastating new quantum entanglement missiles. For months, the Denobulans had relentlessly pummeled humanity, obliterating entire cities from orbit, while their shields shrugged off Earth's feeble counterattacks with contemptuous ease. Led by the ruthless commander Niran, the alien invaders had viewed mankind as a backwater species ripe for subjugation, hairless apes to be crushed underfoot like so many before them. But they had not reckoned on the tenacity and genius of their would-be victims. As cities burned and governments retreated to deep underground bunkers, human scientists worked frantically to devise a last-ditch superweapon to penetrate the Denobulan defenses. Applying cutting-edge quantum mechanics principles, an elite team led by physicist Dr. Jesse Jones developed the QEM, a missile capable of exploiting quantum entanglement to phase directly through shields and materialize inside enemy ships before detonating. Faced with certain annihilation, Earth gambled everything on a globally coordinated alpha strike, hurling volleys of QEMs at the Denobulan Armada as it closed in for the kill. In a cataclysmic flash of fire and debris, the alien fleet was ripped apart from within, their once impervious vessels ruptured like rotten fruit by physics-violating warheads. Awestruck crews perished before they could even process the impossible destruction engulfing them. Intercepted alien transmissions crackled with the screams of the dying and the horrified disbelief of the survivors, who could scarcely comprehend how the primitive species had developed a doomsday weapon defying all known physical laws. That disbelief soon turned to dread as the chilling realization set in. The humans were now armed with civilization-killing QEMs and other quantum weapons, technology that could allow them to not only devastate the tyrant alien empire, but free the many other oppressed races long crushed beneath its cruel boot. As the first hesitant celebrations erupted across an unbroken but bloodied Earth, the barbaric hairless apes of Sol 3 had just taken their first momentous step onto the galactic stage, and nothing would ever be the same. In the aftermath of the stunning victory over the Denobulan Armada, an eerie calm settled over Earth. The once busy skies, recently filled with the contrails of missiles and the burning wreckage of alien ships, now stood clear and quiet. But even as the world began to process the magnitude of what had transpired, global leaders understood that this respite would be short-lived. An emergency summit was swiftly convened at the United Nations headquarters in New York. Representatives from every nation gathered to chart a course for the future, acutely aware that Earth's survival hinged on the decisions made in the coming days. United Nations Secretary-General Miguel Santos took to the podium, his voice resonating with a mix of solemnity and drive. "My fellow humans," Santos began, his eyes scanning the assembly, "we have achieved the impossible. In a seemingly impossible way, we have turned back an existential threat to our species. But let us not delude ourselves. This is not the end, but rather the beginning of a new era. An era in which we must stand united against the challenges that lie ahead." Santos paused, allowing his words to sink in before continuing. "To that end, I propose the formation of the Terran Defense Coalition, a global military alliance that will pool our resources, our technology, and our brightest minds to bolster Earth's defenses against future threats. We must be vigilant, for the Denobulans will surely not forget the humiliation we have dealt them." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber as Santos outlined the structure and objectives of the TDC. At the forefront of this initiative would be Dr. Jesse Jones, the brilliant physicist who had spearheaded the development of the quantum weapons that had saved Earth from annihilation. As the newly appointed chief science officer of the TDC, Dr. Jones would assemble a team of top scientists from around the world to unlock the full potential of quantum technology. In the weeks that followed, disturbing reports began to emerge from the outer reaches of the solar system. Long-range sensors detected a massive buildup of Denobulan ships just beyond the Kuiper Belt, their numbers growing by the day. Intercepted communications painted a chilling picture. The Denobulan Emperor, Zorgax, had vowed revenge for the defeats suffered at the hands of the humans. It seemed another confrontation was inevitable. The TDC wasted no time in responding to this looming threat. Under Dr. Jones's guidance, work began on a network of quantum-powered defense platforms to be deployed throughout the solar system. These formidable installations would serve as early warning systems in the first line of defense against any incoming attacks. Simultaneously, a new class of spacecraft was fast-tracked into production, equipped with the latest QEM launchers and advanced quantum shielding. As Earth braced for the possibility of another war, an unexpected development threw the TDC into a frenzy of activity. A mysterious signal originating from a distant galaxy was detected by the organization's Deep Space Monitoring Network. The transmission was unlike anything ever encountered, encoded within complex quantum frequencies that defied conventional analysis. It was Dr. Jones who finally cracked the code, revealing what appeared to be a distress call from an alien civilization. The message spoke of a desperate struggle against the tyrannical Denobulan Empire, painting a picture of a galaxy under the yoke of a brutal regime. The implications were staggering. If true, it meant that Earth was not alone in its fight against the Denobulans. Intrigued by the prospect of potential allies, the TDC hastily assembled a first contact mission. The TDC Quantum Horizon, a state-of-the-art vessel equipped with the latest quantum technologies, was tasked with investigating the signal's origin. Captain Victor Ramos, a decorated veteran of the Denobulan invasion, was chosen to lead the expedition. Alongside him would be Dr. Jesse Jones and a hand-picked crew of Earth's brightest minds. As the Quantum Horizon prepared for its historic journey, the TDC continued to fortify Earth's defenses and monitor the Denobulan buildup in the outer solar system. The mood was one of cautious optimism, tempered by the knowledge that the challenges ahead would test the limits of human ingenuity and perseverance. But armed with the power of quantum technology and the prospect of new allies, Earth stood ready to face whatever the future might bring. In a small, dimly lit office at TDC headquarters, Dr. Jones pored over the latest sensor data from the Kuiper Belt. The numbers were troubling, painting a picture of a Denobulan force that dwarfed anything Earth had faced before. He rubbed his temples, the weight of responsibility bearing down on him like a physical force. A knock at the door broke his concentration. Captain Ramos stepped into the office, his face etched with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. "Dr. Jones," he said, his voice low and urgent, "we've finished the final preparations. The Quantum Horizon is ready to depart." Dr. Jones nodded, rising from his chair with a determined set to his jaw. "Then let's not waste any time," he said, gathering up a stack of data pads. "The fate of not just Earth, but perhaps the entire galaxy, may depend on what we find out there." Together, the two men strode out of the office, their footsteps echoing down the corridor as they made their way to the waiting ship. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear: the journey ahead would be unlike anything humanity had ever faced before. The Quantum Horizon erupted from quantum space in a dazzling burst of energy, its sleek hull gleaming against the backdrop of an unfamiliar star system. On the bridge, Captain Ramos leaned forward in his command chair, eyes fixed on the monitor as an alien world came into focus. "Sensors detecting multiple spacecraft on an intercept course," reported Lieutenant Chen, her fingers dancing across the tactical console. "Configuration matches the signature described in the distress signal." Dr. Jones stepped up beside Ramos, his face a mix of excitement and apprehension. "This is it, Captain. First contact with a potential ally against the Denobulans." Ramos nodded, straightening his uniform. "Open a channel, Lieutenant." The view screen flickered, revealing a humanoid figure with iridescent skin and large almond-shaped eyes. "I am Neela, ambassador of the Zin Collective," the alien said, her voice melodious yet tinged with urgency. "We welcome you, humans of Earth, though I wish our meeting came under less dire circumstances." Over the next hours, Neela briefed the Quantum Horizon's senior staff on the true extent of Denobulan tyranny. In the ship's conference room, holographic displays flickered with images of ravaged worlds and oppressed populations. "The Denobulans have crushed dozens of civilizations," Neela explained, her voice heavy. "Entire species reduced to slave labor, stripped of resources and dignity." Dr. Jones leaned forward, his eyes gleaming. But now we have a chance to turn the tide. Our quantum weapons technology could be the key to breaking the Denobulan stranglehold on the galaxy. Captain Ramos frowned, the weight of responsibility evident in his posture. We barely survived our own encounter with the Denobulans. Earth is still reeling from the invasion. Can we really consider involving ourselves in a galactic war? Before anyone could respond, Lieutenant Chen burst into the room. Captain, urgent transmission from Earth. The TDC has been compromised. The mood aboard the Quantum Horizon shifted from cautious optimism to fierce dedication as news of Nerox's infiltration and theft spread through the crew. In his quarters, Dr. Jones paced restlessly, muttering calculations and probabilities under his breath. A chime at the door interrupted his thoughts. Captain Ramos entered, his face etched with concern. The TDC has made their decision, he announced. We're to form an alliance with the Xin and launch an immediate strike against the Denobulan staging ground. Jones nodded, a mix of excitement and trepidation in his eyes. It's the right call, Victor. If the Denobulans incorporate our quantum tech into their arsenal, the consequences would be catastrophic. Within hours, a joint human-Xin task force assembled. The Quantum Horizon, now under the command of newly promoted Admiral Ramos, took point as the fleet prepared to jump. On the bridge, Ramos surveyed his crew, human and Xin working side by side, united against a common threat. All ships report ready, Admiral, Lieutenant Chen announced. Ramos took a deep breath, his voice steady as he gave the order. Engage quantum drives. Let's remind the Denobulans why they should have left Earth alone. In a flash of otherworldly energy, the task force vanished, hurtling towards a confrontation that would shape the future of the galaxy. Light years away, in the opulent throne room of the Denobulan Empire, Emperor Zorgax's eyes blazed with fury as he received word of the humans' alliance with the Xin. Insufferable primitives, he roared, smashing a nearby console. I will crush their pathetic resistance myself. As Denobulan warlords scrambled to formulate a plan, Zorgax's decree echoed through the chamber. No mercy, no prisoners. Earth and its allies will be reduced to cosmic dust. The Denobulan war machine lurched into motion, armadas assembling for a campaign of retribution. But for the first time in eons, a flicker of uncertainty crept into the Empire's calculations. The humans had proven themselves unpredictable and dangerously innovative. The coming battle would test the limits of Denobulan military might against the raw ingenuity of a species fighting for its very existence. The joint human-Xin task force materialized in a dazzling burst of quantum energy at the edge of the Kuiper Belt. Admiral Ramos stood on the bridge of the Quantum Horizon, his eyes fixed on the tactical display showing the Denobulan fleet amassed before them. All ships, report status, he ordered, his voice steady despite the tension thrumming through the air. As confirmations flooded in, Dr. Jones approached, datapad in hand. Admiral, our latest intel suggests the Denobulans haven't fully cracked the QEM technology. We may have an advantage. Ramos nodded, a grim smile playing at the corners of his mouth. Then let's press it. Summon the senior staff to the war room. Minutes later, the ship's top officers gathered around a holographic projection of the battlefield. Ambassador Neela's iridescent skin shimmered as she gestured to the Denobulan positions. Our Xin vessels will draw their attention here, she explained, highlighting a sector dense with asteroids and space debris. While they're engaged, your ships can strike from multiple vectors. Captain Ramirez, a young officer with a reputation for tactical brilliance, leaned forward. We'll need precise timing. If we strike too early, they'll see through the feint. Too late, and we lose the element of surprise. Ramos turned to Dr. Jones. How quickly can we fabricate more QEMs if this turns into a prolonged engagement? Jones ran calculations in his head. With the current setup, we can produce a new batch every 47 minutes. I'll oversee production personally. As the meeting concluded, Ramos addressed his assembled officers. The fate of Earth, perhaps the entire galaxy, rests on the outcome of this battle. Let's remind the Denobulans why they should have left us alone. The plan was set in motion. Xin ships surged forward, their energy weapons flaring against the void. Denobulan vessels responded, turbo lasers cutting swaths through space. For a moment, it seemed the ruse had worked. Then a transmission crackled through the command channel. "Admiral," it was Captain Ramirez, his voice taut with urgency. "The Denobulan commander isn't taking the bait. They're holding position." Ramos's mind raced, weighing options in a fraction of a second. "Adapt the plan. All TDC ships push into the debris field. We'll spring the trap anyway." What followed was a symphony of destruction orchestrated by human ingenuity. TDC fighters wove between tumbling asteroids, their pilots demonstrating preternatural skill. Larger vessels used the cover of celestial bodies to mask their approach. Aboard the Denobulan flagship, Commander Krugax sneered at the primitive tactics on display. "Predictable savages," he growled. "Prepare to—" His words were cut short as the first QEM detonations blossomed among his fleet. Ships disintegrated from within, consumed by quantum fire that ignored shields and armor alike. Krugax's eyes widened in horror as the extent of the ambush became clear. "Impossible!" he roared. "They couldn't have—" Another volley of QEMs struck home. Krugax watched helplessly as his mighty armada crumbled before these upstart humans and their alien allies. On the quantum horizon, Dr. Jones worked feverishly to produce more QEMs. His team moved with practiced efficiency, churning out weapons that defied the laws of physics as the Denobulans understood them. The battle devolved into a rout. Denobulan ships, once the scourge of the galaxy, now fled before the onslaught of human quantum weaponry. Krugax, his hubris shattered, transmitted a panicked retreat signal. It was too late. Precision QEM strikes crippled his flagship, leaving the once proud commander adrift and at the mercy of his adversaries. In the aftermath, Captain Ramirez stood face-to-face with the captured Krugax aboard the Quantum Horizon. The Denobulans seethed with impotent rage, unable to comprehend how these primitive humans had so thoroughly outmaneuvered him. Ramirez said nothing, letting the crushing weight of defeat speak for itself. As he turned to leave, Krugax spat a final venomous question. How? How did inferior creatures like you best the might of the Denobulan Empire? The captain paused at the door, looking back over his shoulder. You made the mistake of underestimating us, Commander. It won't happen again. As news of the defeat spread, the gleaming spires of the Denobulan capital world trembled with unrest. In shadowy corridors and opulent chambers, voices whispered of rebellion against Emperor Zorgax's disastrous leadership. A cabal of warlords gathered in secret, their faces illuminated by the soft glow of holographic displays showing the devastating loss at human hands. The Emperor's obsession will be our undoing, one growled. We must act now, before it's too late. Nods of agreement rippled through the assembled conspirators. As they began to plot Zorgax's downfall, the balance of power in the galaxy teetered on a knife's edge. The tremors of rebellion rippled through the Denobulan capital. Lord Varnak, his face set in unyielding commitment, surveyed the assembled purge troopers. Their armor gleamed in the dim light of the palace's subterranean levels. Tonight we excise the cancer that plagues our empire, Varnak growled, his voice low and dangerous. Zorgax's madness ends now. The strike force moved with practiced precision, quantum disruptors humming with awe-inspiring energy. Palace guards, caught off guard by the sudden assault, fell before the advancing rebels. In his opulent throne room, Emperor Zorgax paced restlessly. Holographic displays flickered with reports of the human Zin victory, each one stoking the fires of his rage. Impossible, he snarled, hurling a priceless artifact across the room. I am Zorgax. I am... The doors exploded inward. Varnak strode through the smoke, flanked by his elite troops. Zorgax's personal guard moved to intercept, but were cut down in a hail of disruptor fire. You! Zorgax's eyes bulged with fury. Traitor! You dare... Varnak raised his weapon. Your reign of folly is over, Zorgax. A single shot rang out. The tyrant emperor crumpled, his final tirade silenced forever. Aboard the Quantum Horizon, Admiral Ramos and Dr. Jones received the Denobulan envoys with a mixture of suspicion and curiosity. The lead ambassador, a tall, willowy alien named Creel, bowed deeply. Emperor Varnak extends his deepest apologies for the actions of his predecessor, Creel intoned. He seeks a new era of cooperation between our peoples. Ramos's eyes narrowed. And we're supposed to simply forget the devastation wrought upon Earth? Dr. Jones laid a hand on the Admiral's arm. Victor, we must consider the bigger picture. This could be our chance to reshape the balance of power in the galaxy. Hours of tense negotiation followed. The TDC leadership debated fiercely via quantum encrypted channels. In the end, pragmatism won out over lingering resentment. Dr. Jones found himself on a shuttle bound for the Denobulan homeworld, his mind racing with possibilities. As he disembarked in the sprawling capital, a plasma bolt seared the air inches from his head. Zorgax loyalist! A Denobulan security officer shouted, tackling Jones to the ground as return fire erupted around them. The attack was short-lived but left the human scientist shaken. Varnak's personal guard whisked him to the palace's quantum labs, where his eyes widened at the sight of technology beyond even Earth's most advanced theories. A Denobulan scientist approached, her multifaceted eyes gleaming with terrifying excitement. Dr. Jones, she said, I am Lyrax. There is much we have to show you. As the two brilliant minds began to explore the frontiers of quantum mechanics, the seeds of an uneasy alliance were sown. The galaxy held its breath, waiting to see what this tenuous partnership between former enemies might bring. Dr. Jones stood before the Terran Defense Council, his hands trembling slightly as he gripped the edges of the podium. The chamber fell silent, dozens of eyes fixed on the scientist who had just delivered a bombshell. To summarize, Jones said, his voice steady despite his nerves, the Denobulan's quantum capabilities far exceed our initial estimates. Their theoretical models alone could revolutionize our understanding of space-time itself. Admiral Ramos leaned forward, his brow furrowed. And you're certain they've shared everything with us? Before Jones could respond, a holographic projection flickered to life beside him. Emperor Varnak's imposing figure materialized, his multifaceted eyes gleaming. I assure you, Admiral, we have withheld nothing. Varnak's resonant voice filled the chamber. The folly of my predecessor's warmongering ends now. Only through complete transparency can we forge a lasting peace. Murmurs rippled through the assembled counselors. Ramos exchanged glances with his fellow leaders, a silent debate unfolding in the space of heartbeats. Finally, the TDC chairwoman spoke. Very well, we will proceed with the exchange program as proposed. Months blurred into a frenzy of collaborative research. Jones found himself working alongside Lyrax and a cadre of brilliant Denobulan scientists. Their combined efforts yielded fruit beyond his wildest imagination. In a vast orbital shipyard, the skeleton of humanity's new flagship took shape. The QMS Dauntless hung suspended in vacuum, scaffolding and construction drones swarming over its sleek hull. Admiral Ramos stood at a viewport, watching the controlled chaos with pride. Project Quantum Vanguard, he mused. Who would have thought we'd be here so soon after facing extinction? A young officer approached, snapping to attention. Sir, the latest batch of recruits has arrived for inspection. Ramos nodded, turning away from the view. As he strode through the corridors, his eyes lingered on the faces of eager volunteers. Their youthful enthusiasm was infectious, a stark contrast to the stubborn persistence of those who had fought in the initial invasion. On the training deck, a familiar voice caught Ramos's attention. Marcus Khan, former hotshot pilot turned instructor, was putting a squad through their paces. Again, Kane barked. You think the Void cares about your comfort? You push until you can't, then you push harder. Ramos allowed himself a small smile. Connie's unorthodox methods had raised eyebrows, but his results were undeniable. The Admiral made a mental note to keep a close eye on the young commander's progress. In the quantum labs, Dr. Jones hunched over a glowing console, his fingers flying across holographic interfaces. Lyrax worked beside him, their movements in perfect sync after months of collaboration. There! Jones exclaimed, his eyes wide. Do you see it? Lyrax's multifaceted eyes whirled with excitement. The encryption! It's unraveling! On the screen before them, streams of alien data coalesced into recognizable patterns. The last transmissions of the Zin Collective, finally decrypted after countless failed attempts. As the information poured in, Jones felt a chill run down his spine. Coordinates. A map leading to the heart of uncharted space, promising untold technological wonders. Aboard the newly christened Dauntless, Commander Khan settled into the captain's chair. His cocky grin belied the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. "All systems online," his XO reported. "Quantum drive primed and ready." Khan nodded, his eyes flicking to the view screen where the rest of the Vanguard fleet assembled. "All right, people, let's make history." In a flash of impossible light, the Dauntless and its support ships vanished, hurtling into the void between galaxies. Their mission, to claim the secrets of a long-dead civilization and cement humanity's place among the stars. On the bridge, Zyla, the Zin ambassador, watched the proceedings with carefully concealed disdain. Her iridescent skin shimmered as she contemplated the humans' audacity. To think they would ally with the Denobulans, after all her people had sacrificed. As the Quantum Vanguard plunged deeper into uncharted space, none aboard realized they had already been noticed. In the vast darkness between stars, ancient and terrifying forces stirred, awakened by the quantum disturbances of humanity's bold leap forward. The true test of the fledgling human-Denobulan alliance lay ahead, in the cosmic ruins of a civilization that had once spanned galaxies. The Quantum Vanguard fleet surged through the void, leaving familiar space behind. On the bridge of the QMS Dauntless, Commander Marcus Kane's fingers drummed against the armrest of his chair. His eyes flicked between holographic readouts, each one confirming their trajectory towards the mysterious Zin coordinates. "Status report," Connie barked, his voice carrying an edge of anticipation. Lieutenant Reeves responded from her station. "All systems nominal, sir. Quantum drive operating at peak efficiency. ETA to target coordinates, 47 hours. Khan nodded, allowing himself a small smile. Behind him, Zyla stood motionless, her iridescent skin shimmering under the bridge's subdued lighting. Her multifaceted eyes betrayed no emotion as she observed the human crew at work. The next 24 hours passed in a blur of routine checks and mounting excitement. Then, without warning, alarms blared across the bridge. "Commander!" Reeves shouted, her fingers flying across her console. "Long-range sensors detecting a massive gravitational anomaly dead ahead." Khan leaned forward, his eyes widening as the main view screen flickered to life. A monstrous quantum singularity loomed before them, its accretion disk a maelstrom of light and energy. "Full stop," Kane ordered. "All ships, emergency course correction." But it was too late. The singularity's pull proved too strong, dragging the support vessels inexorably towards destruction. Kana watched in horror as ship after ship vanished into the cosmic maw, their quantum shielding offering no protection against the fundamental forces at work. "Seeker 7, hyperdrive online!" The chief engineer's voice crackled over the comm. "It's now or never, Commander." Kana gritted his teeth. "Do it!" The Dauntless lurched sickeningly as the experimental drive engaged. Space itself seemed to twist and buckle around them. For a heart-stopping moment, it seemed even this wouldn't be enough. Then, with a final surge of power, they broke free. Alarms wailed as the ship limped onward, its quantum drives pushed well beyond safe limits. The bridge crew worked feverishly to stabilize their systems, acutely aware of how close they'd come to oblivion. Hours later, they arrived at their destination. A dead world hung in space before them, orbited by the skeletal remains of an ancient station. Kana ordered a boarding party assembled, keenly feeling the absence of their lost support ships. As they docked with the station, Zyla finally broke her silence. "Be wary, humans," she hissed. "The past does not give up its secrets easily." Inside, they found the data banks, or what was left of them. The singularity's influence had wreaked havoc, leaving only fragments of the coveted Zin archives intact. As the team worked to salvage what they could, Zyla suddenly stiffened. "We must leave," she said, her voice urgent. "Now!" Before Khan could demand an explanation, the ship's sensors detected new contacts emerging from the lingering quantum distortions. A swarm of biomechanical vessels, utterly alien in design, bore down upon them. "Virkan," Zyla breathed, her normally impassive face twisted with something akin to fear. The Dauntless barely had time to raise shields before the assault began. Kana barked orders, his crew responding with admirable efficiency, but it was clear they were hopelessly outmatched. Alien boarding pods punctured the hull, disgorging cybernetic monstrosities. The ship's internal defenses were overwhelmed in minutes. Connie led a desperate last stand on the bridge, phaser in hand, as Virkun assault thralls poured through the doors. A burst of synaptic energy struck him, and Khan's world dissolved into screaming static. The last thing he saw before losing consciousness was Xyla, her eyes blazing with defiance as she was dragged away by their captors. In the eerie silence that followed, the Dauntless drifted helplessly. Its automated distress beacon pulsed into the void, a feeble cry for help as the crippled ship was drawn inexorably back towards the waiting singularity. The quantum singularity loomed ever larger in the Dauntless's viewports as the crippled vessel drifted inexorably towards oblivion. Years passed in eerie silence, broken only by the faint pulse of its automated distress beacon. Aboard the QMS Reclaimer, Admiral Ramos gripped the command railing, his fingers tightening. "Status on the quantum tunneling drive?" Dr. Jones' voice crackled over the comm, tinged with static from the singularity's interference. "Online and primed, Admiral, but I must warn you, this is highly experimental technology. The risks are necessary," Ramos finished. "Initiate the sequence." The Reclaimer shuddered as reality itself seemed to twist around them. Crew members fought waves of nausea as space-time buckled and folded. With a final, sickening lurch, they punched through. "Target acquired," the tactical officer shouted. "Dauntless dead ahead, 500 meters and closing." Ramos allowed himself a grim smile. "Commence retrieval operations, and pray we're not too late." Tractor beams lashed out, enveloping the Dauntless's battered hull. As they began to pull away from the singularity's maw, alarms blared. "Gravitational shear increasing," Jones reported. "We need to move faster." "Divert all power to engines and tractor beams," Ramos ordered. "We're not losing them now." The Reclaimer's engines howled in protest as they strained against cosmic forces. For a heart-stopping moment, it seemed as if they would fail. Then, with agonizing slowness, both ships began to pull away. Once clear, recovery teams swarmed the Dauntless. They found a ghost ship, its corridors eerily silent save for the hum of active stasis pods. In the medbay, Ramos watched as Commander Connie's pod hissed open. The younger man's eyes snapped open, wild with panic. "The Virkun!" Kane gasped, struggling against the medical staff. "They're coming! We have to—" "Easy, soldier," Ramos said, placing a steadying hand on Connie's shoulder. "You're safe now, but we need to know what happened out there." As Kana's ragged breathing steadied, he recounted the horrors he had witnessed. The Virkun assault, the twisted melding of flesh and machine, and Xyla's willing submission to assimilation. Dr. Jones paled as the implications became clear. "Admiral, if the Virkun have access to our quantum research—" "I know," Ramos growled. "We need to hit them hard, and we need to do it now." But in the days that followed, it became clear that such a swift counterattack was impossible. The trauma of the Dauntless incident had shaken humanity to its core. Resources that should have gone towards military buildup were instead diverted to shoring up planetary defenses and appeasing a panicked populace. The Denobulan alliance, too, began to fray. Emperor Varnak's calls for caution and measured expansion fell on increasingly hostile ears within the Imperial Court. In a secure quantum lab deep beneath the TDC headquarters, Dr. Jones hunched over a holographic display. The equations for his theoretical negative mass drive swirled before him, tantalizingly close to a breakthrough. A proximity alert chimed, and Jones looked up to see Admiral Ramos enter, his face grim. "Tell me you have good news, Doctor," Ramos said, "because I'm running out of options." Jones gestured to the display. "I'm close, Victor. But without full cooperation from our Denobulan colleagues, I can't—" "Then to hell with their cooperation," Ramos snapped. "We don't have time for their games. If they won't willingly share their resources, then perhaps it's time we took a more direct approach." Jones felt a chill run down his spine at the Admiral's words. He opened his mouth to object, but Ramos cut him off with a sharp gesture. You focus on your work, Doctor, Ramos said, his voice cold. Leave the politics to me. As the Admiral strode from the lab, Jones turned back to his equations with renewed urgency. He knew that somewhere within this tangle of quantum theory lay humanity's best hope for survival, and he prayed he could unlock its secrets before Ramos's heavy-handed tactics plunged them all into an even deadlier conflict. Dr. Jones's fingers flew across the holographic interface, his eyes darting between streams of data. The negative mass equations pulsed with possibility, no longer just theoretical constructs, but the foundation for humanity's next great leap. We're close, he muttered, more to himself than the small team gathered around him in the hidden lab. So damn close. Admiral Ramos's words echoed in his mind, spurring him onwards. The Denobulans' reluctance to share their quantum research had become an obstacle they could no longer afford. Humanity needed an edge, and they needed it now. Weeks blurred into months as Jones and his hand-picked team worked in secret. Their efforts culminated in a prototype that defied conventional physics, a quantum slipstream engine that harnessed the power of negative mass. In a remote testing facility, Jones watched with suspenseful pause as the first unmanned probe vanished in a shimmer of otherworldly energy. Seconds later, it reappeared, having traversed vast distances through higher spatial dimensions. It works, Jones breathed, his voice barely above a whisper. My God, it actually works. Admiral Ramos wasted no time. Within days, the QMS Valhalla was outfitted with the experimental drive. Commander Kana, his eyes haunted by memories of Virakun torture, stood on the bridge as the ship prepared for its maiden voyage. All systems go, Commander, his XO reported. Slipstream drive online and stable. Khan nodded, his lips pursed. Initiate jump sequence. The Valhalla shuddered as reality itself seemed to fold around them. In a flash of impossible light, they vanished from known space. Days later, they emerged near the heart of Ire. The swirling nebula before them concealed a chilling sight, the Virakun homeworld, Terminus, surrounded by a vast armada of biomechanical horrors. My God, Kana breathed, taking in the sheer scale of the invasion force. Before they could retreat, alarms blared across the bridge. Their stealth field collapsed under a wave of alien interference. Swarms of Virakun drones descended upon them, their weapons tearing into the Valhalla's hull. Emergency jump, Khan bellowed as the ship rocked under the assault. Now! In their haste to escape, the jump coordinates were input incorrectly. The Valhalla lurched sickeningly as it plunged into slipstream space, emerging in an uncharted system filled with swirling quantum storms and bizarre spatial anomalies. Kana stared at the alien vista before them, his heart sinking. Where the hell are we? For days they drifted in this cosmic limbo, their long-range communications scrambled by the surrounding quantum interference. The crew's morale plummeted as the reality of their situation set in. Then, amidst the chaos of their sensors, a faint signal emerged, an ancient automated array broadcasting a repeating message in an unknown language. Dr. Jones worked feverishly to decrypt the alien transmission. When he finally cracked the code, his eyes widened in disbelief. Commander, he said, his voice trembling with excitement, you're not going to believe this. The array, Jones explained, was part of a vast network created by an ancient Type 3 civilization. It generated the surrounding quantum anomalies as a cosmic refueling station for intergalactic vessels. And the energy readings, Jones continued, his fingers dancing across the console. They're off the charts. If we can tap into it... Kana understood immediately. We could jump straight back to Earth. As the Valhalla moved into position, Jones' voice crackled over the comm. Commander, I must warn you, the risks of destabilizing the array are significant. We could trigger a dimensional collapse. Khan's grip tightened on his chair. The weight of the decision pressed down upon him. Behind them lay the Virakun threat. Ahead, an uncertain gamble that could save humanity or doom them all. Initiate uplink, he ordered, his voice steady despite the storm of emotions within. Let's bring this intel home. The Valhalla shuddered as it began to siphon energy from the ancient array. Alarms blared as power levels spiked beyond anything their systems were designed to handle. On the monitor, the fabric of space itself seemed to ripple and tear. "Slipstream drive charging," the XO reported, her voice strained. "Ready in 10, 9. Khan closed his eyes, silently praying that they hadn't just made a catastrophic mistake. 3, 2, 1. In a blinding flash of quantum energy, the Valhalla vanished. The fate of Earth, and perhaps the entire galaxy, hung in the balance as they hurtled through the slipstream, praying they would emerge in friendly space before it was too late. The Valhalla tore through slipstream space, reality bending around its hull as it hurtled towards Earth. On the bridge, Commander Kana gripped his chair, nucleus tightening. Alarms blared as power fluctuations rippled through the ship's systems. "Slipstream drive at critical levels," the engineer's voice crackled over the comm. "We're losing containment." Connie's eyes darted to the readouts. They were pushing the experimental drive far beyond its limits. "Status on Earth." "Sensors coming online," his XO reported. We're in the Sol system, sir, but..." The view screen flickered to life, revealing a haunting sight. Earth hung before them, its cities still bearing the scars of recent devastation. Orbital platforms drifted in eerie silence, their quantum shielding glimmering faintly against the void. "My God," Dr. Jones breathed, his face ashen. "What happened while we were gone?" Before Connie could respond, a violent shudder ran through the ship. Warning klaxons screamed as systems began to fail across the board. "Commander," the tactical officer shouted, "sensors detect a massive quantum disturbance following us through the slipstream." Khan's blood ran cold as he realized the full implications of their high-stakes endeavor. The ancient array's collapse had triggered a chain reaction, and they had inadvertently brought that cataclysm home. "All hands prepare for emergency evacuation," Khan ordered, his voice steady despite the chaos. "Transmit all data on the Virkun threat to Earth Command." As crew members scrambled to escape pods, Khan's gaze met Dr. Jones. Understanding passed between them. They had mere moments to act. "The quantum array in the heart of the system," Jones said, his fingers flying over a console. "If we can use it to disperse the incoming shockwave..." "Do it," Kana nodded grimly. The Valhalla's engines sputtered and died as they maneuvered towards the solar array. Behind them, space itself seemed to twist and tear as the quantum inferno pursued them relentlessly. Escape pods launched, streaking towards the battered Earth below. On the rapidly emptying bridge, Connie watched the distance to the array tick down. They were cutting it far too close. "Initiating emergency protocols," Jones announced, his voice tight with tension. "Channeling all remaining power to the array." The solar quantum array hummed to life, its energy output spiking exponentially. Waves of controlled singularities began to form, spreading outward to meet the oncoming storm. Khan allowed himself a moment of grim satisfaction. They might not survive this, but at least Earth would have a fighting chance. "It's been an honor," he said softly. The universe seemed to hold its breath as two titanic forces collided. The Valhalla, caught in the middle, was torn apart in a silent explosion of light and radiation. For endless minutes, the fate of the solar system hung in the balance as quantum energies raged against each other. Then gradually the maelstrom began to subside. The last of the destabilized anomalies winked out of existence, leaving only silence and the soft glow of Hawking radiation in their wake. On the scorched surface of Earth, Dr. Jones emerged from a battered escape pod. His eyes traveled skyward, taking in the ruined halo trails where Earth's defensive shield had once shimmered. The weight of their Pyrrhic victory settled over him like a shroud. As the surviving crew gathered around him, Jones' gaze hardened. They had sacrificed everything to bring this warning. Now they had mere days before the Virkun Armada arrived. He turned to face the shell-shocked survivors, his voice low but determined. "We've bought Earth time, but at a terrible cost. Now we must use every second to prepare for what's coming." The ruined skyline of Earth's cities loomed before them, a stark reminder of the challenges that lay ahead. In the eerie quiet following the quantum cataclysm, humanity steeled itself for the greatest fight of its existence.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, Please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.